Well, good evening, everybody. We're going to officially open our meeting at 6 o'clock, our City of Coquille Budget Committee meeting. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I want to thank everybody for being here, department heads, Mr. Norberg, and our committee members, of which we all are committee members. So I know on our regular council meetings, the council sits up here, but we are all committee members and through this process. And so just appreciate your commitment in being here, going through the process, our staff, all the work that they did on the budget, Mr. Norberg, pulling double duty, managing the city and finance department, and so appreciate you there. The next thing on the agenda item is to elect a budget committee chair, and I'm going to be the first one to proffer out Jay Westrom as our committee chair. He's done a great job over the last couple of years getting us through the budget.
Second.
Okay, the motion on the table is by Member Flaherty, appointing Member Westrom as chair, seconded by Waddington. Do we take a count on that? Is that a motion? You all good with that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Anybody opposed? All right. Well, there you go, Mr. Westrom and Mr. Norberg.
Do I have a line item to go through, or do I just start with,
You have this agenda right here?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
It is not in my book.
Oh.
I don't have an agenda in the book. You'll make copies of
How many of you do not have agendas?
I know, but I,
Let's just take a brief pause
okay, so we're gonna take a brief recess.
and we'll get you.
Or can I just have that and then I can just,
Well, Forrest starts it anyway, so he'll be right back. He's got the budget and such. Yeah, mine. I'll get one coming.
we don't have our city man, we don't have our attorney here, so we can't tell us a joke. How's everybody?
It's an expensive
I know he wasn't here Monday either.
Yeah, it's starting to stack up. That's the one in the bank. You're not allowed to have these.
Everybody good?
You're not allowed to have these, are you? Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
What is it?
Energy drink.
Jolly Rancher.
Well, it's the first time for everything.
Yeah, coffee doesn't hit like it used to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good way to like have a nice, delicious cup when you start your day, but that's just first caffeine.
I remember the first time I had an energy drink when this is shortly after high school. They were starting to come out, and I was like, or they gave it to me.
Or do I announce that and then recess it? Or do you say anything?
We stayed up the whole night, and then I was like, oh crap, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. I got, go to school, and I was like, this was crazy. Just never slept. Now I can drink one of these and just take a nap.
Right, me too. Yeah. We're desensitized.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. Very expensive paper holder.
Out front, by the front door. Oh, the pad, the main pad itself, that was probably
been a whole
I want
year.
to say when the building was built, 62, 63.
5 minutes in, I thought I could
And
be
my
done in
brother and
15.
I, well, actually Jeff, me, and
Okay.
Brian poured
Yeah, sorry about that.
3 parking spots there
Like auctioneer.
by ourselves, probably.
All righty, are we ready? Everybody ready? Everybody good? Ready? All right, at this point, I'm going to, I'm just going to thank everyone for appointing me budget chair again. At this point, agenda item number 4, the presentation of the budget message by City Manager Forrest Norberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to read through this thing line by line. If you read it and we're not incredibly bored, that's great. I think some of the major concerns that we might talk about is, this is, it's not a robust budget, but it is better than the last one we worked with in many ways, perhaps. One of the issues, it's basically the same total kind of budget. One of the issues that we're facing is costs. And I know you all obvious that if you put gas in your vehicle lately, but on top of that, it seems like every product the city buys, if it involves law enforcement or fire or ambulance, not picking on them, but those have special extra prices, and then everything else just has extra prices. So, costs continue to increase. The cost of insurance and benefits continues to get larger at a staggering rate, I think. It's a staggering rate. And I realize that, like in health insurance, why that costs more, because everything costs more, it's just, which the funny thing about that is the current inflation, supposedly, according to the federal government, is only 2.1%, and the engineering news record index of inflation is 2.4%. So, and by the way, that's what our water rate will be this year, is the ENR rate, which is 2.4%. But you look at those percentages, and they don't seem to tell much of the tale. Because I say healthcare has gone up, our insurance has gone up 12 to 15% over the last 3 years. So, it is a daunting task to try to encompass all that in and meet the needs of our community and our employees and meet the council's goals. So one of the differences in this year's budget, so we have represented employees, as you all know. Our public works employees are represented by Teamsters, and our police officers are represented by FOP, essentially, and so they have contractual COLAs, both of which are currently running higher than inflation. And last year, none of the non-represented employees received a COLA at all. So this year, we built in a 2% COLA, and the cost, 2.5% COLA for non-represented employees. And that was about $41,000 in cost. So, that's a fair chunk of employees, but not necessarily that much money overall. Budgetary concerns that we remain to have is the ambulance service, one of those, and we will soon have this ambulance billing thing in place. It was a little more complicated than we've been led to believe, but they have everything we need. So we should be getting that started shortly, and we will see how that affects, the ambulance operations and, the potential for a levy. Now, the levy discussion is not for this evening's meeting, but it's certainly a relevant thing on my minds, and, I think most of the council members, and obviously, fire and ambulance service, and, I think Chief Latimer's doing a really good job keeping on top of things, and so very thankful for that. The timber harvest contract, when we jump to the general fund, that's actually happening sooner than we thought it would, which is great, because I definitely had some carryover angst looking at the budget and looking at expenditures. And, it would be really great if our
fiscal years were January through December 31st. Because then you could budget for taxes you get in November, not budget for taxes July 1st that you get in November. It's a challenge. You know, I've worked in both kinds of fiscal years, and my preference obviously is the calendar year. It's simpler, but that's not what we do here, so we're learning to live with that. I think, you know, we still have the carryover cash issue, but I'm feeling better about that. We should start getting revenues in July or August from the timber harvest. And as you recall, that timber harvest is valued at around $1 million. Now, we've only budgeted for 800,000 of those dollars at this point, because, you know, don't like to spend every penny of it, but I will tell this committee, you know, based upon the council's interest and staff's interest in getting audits caught up, those extra funds might be a good avenue for that. So we're not budgeted. We'll come back to council once we start getting that revenue, but I really do think, you know, I didn't necessarily put this in the budget message, but getting those audits caught up is a very primary job. We did just engage some help in getting the current one moving forward. So that's pretty exciting. I think, you know, I'm hoping in the next 90 days we can have everything to the auditors and get that one done, and then do an RFP for future auditors and keep that process moving along. I don't usually read things verbatim, but I do want to read this. One part of the message. I'd like to thank the department heads for pitching in on the work and getting their numbers squared away early. We got things done pretty early this year, which was nice. I'd also like to thank our newest director, Elizabeth Kinney, for stepping up in the HR director role, along with continuing as a city recorder. She's doing a great job, and now I can only be peripherally involved in HR, which is nice. And gave me more time to work on the budget. Our accounting team, as they call themselves now, not the finance department, they call themselves the accounting team, and I'm good with that. Rebecca Kilcoyne, Heather Marshall, Jessica Barlow, and Emily Caffey have done a great job helping me managing their department by doing great work, and a special shout out to Emily Caffey, who did the wage Excel sheets for me, which she did a great job, and it was the best one of those I think I've seen in my career where you were really down to, and we have some complexity there, right? There are some of Mr. Denny's employees that are in 4 different GL codes for their pay, and she tracked that all really nice, got in the rate increases, and really did an excellent job. I also want to recognize all the employees of the city who continue to do great work during these difficult times, and to thank the city council for hanging in there. The last year was kind of tough in a lot of ways, but we're still moving forward, and I'm looking forward to our next year. And we did offer a job to a potential finance director today, so we should have an answer next week on that one. So, you know, then they can do this next year instead of me. And that is all I have on the budget message, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Norberg. Any questions on what he has just mentioned?
In this budget message, and I think it also is on the one from last year, you said you were not giving out step increases except for people that were coming off probation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that becoming your policy now that you think you're pretty much done with step increases? Or is this temporary, do you know?
Well, under the current fiscal reality, I think that is the policy until further notice. But we will have COLAs, so they get something. But yeah, step increases, probably not.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Norberg. All right. Number 5, the presentation of the state revenue sharing request, and at this time I will recess the budget committee meeting to hear a public hearing on the state revenue sharing.
So if you notice if you have a budget book, left-hand insert behind where the agenda was supposed to be, there is the state shared revenue funding request. I did send out a supplemental memo to the committee members.
I was just telling them, is it the one you sent is in the agenda I gave them, so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
We had some discussions and little discovery on the computer issue. So we modified that a little bit. There was a laptop in there. We took that out. Originally requested $8,100, and we reduced that to $6,000 for 6 units, so about $1,000 a unit. Hopefully the market on that prevails. We'll see, but that should work. Then we have the fire department requesting 10 Seek Fire Pro 300 thermal imaging cameras. That's $14,582. And the police department request remains at $15,000 for the body-worn cameras and the tasers and, that stuff. That would leave us, I went back and looked at this year's, what was allocated for state revenue sharing, and the entire fund was allocated. There's not, if you look in the budget, it shows it's not all expended yet. We'll get that squared away pretty soon. I'm pretty sure the purchases actually happened already, so we'll fire and PD on that. So basically, there's $4,418 not recommended to be allocated to anybody, which could be used at a later date if the public entity or organization or something wanted to request those from the state council at a later date. So that's basically the summary of state revenue sharing requests.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, so I will adjourn the state revenue sharing hearing and reopen the budget committee meeting. Moving on to item number 7, the budget committee action and recommendation on state revenue sharing.
We're not actually making motions, just recommendations, right, for us?
Well, you're going to vote on it. You can make it could be in the form of a motion.
Okay.
That's fine. That's probably the most familiar thing. So I move to.
Yeah. So I'll make the motion to adopt the recommendations.
On state revenue sharing.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by member Flaherty and a second by member Corliss. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? That would be unanimous.
All right. Thank you.
All right. All right. Now the fun part why we're all here tonight. Discussion of general fund and general fund expenditures.
Okay.
Start at the top with the general fund revenues and expenditures.
So it's up to you how you all want to go through this. I am not a fan of going through every line, but certainly if you have the time, we can do that, or we can just kind of hit the highlights if you'd like.
I'm just kind of thinking if we just, again, not hit every line item, but does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns on the general fund revenues and expenditures tab? Okay. Well, we'll just move right on to policy.
Just a quick question. And it makes sense to me because I looked at the library budget, but the transfer from the general fund to the library was that was, I don't know that we've done that before, but
Well, actually, we have done it before. We haven't done it the last couple of years, but in order to, that was a request from the our library director, and it seemed like it was something we could do this year.
great.
It's not
Yeah, I'm not even opposing to it. It was just something I noticed, so, but yeah, great job on your budget. Yep, thank you.
And I just had one question on, and I thought it was waste management, not less sanitation, but they're only asking for a $2,500 franchise fee?
That is the franchise fee that we agreed to them contractually when they took that over. I think it was for 5 years.
So $2,500 per year for increase, $2,500 per year for 5 years?
Yeah, $2,500 each year.
Each year for 5 years?
Yeah, for 5 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was the initial deal with him.
Sounds good. Anything else on the general fund? All right, let's move on to policy and legislation. Does anybody have any questions on policy and legislation? You guys are way too easy. All righty, let's move on to support services.
I will.
Huh?
I will.
Am I going too fast for you, Sheena?
Yeah, I made notes, so I'm just reviewing those.
Okay, so do you have any questions on the policy and legislation?
The only one. No, that one I think I'm good. I got that answered later.
Okay. So moving on to support services. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I don't.
With regards to building maintenance at the city hall, what are those plans? And is that going to be,
Yeah.
what's that involved?
Yeah, I had the same highlight.
Which one?
Building maintenance for twos.
It's down towards,
0220.
Yeah, I'll explain what that's about. We have 3 of those fabulous heating units on City Hall that need to be replaced. They are dying. They told us last October that we should replace them, and we really couldn't do that. So that's about $34,000 of that 42. And then the normal amount that we have in there is $8,000 to $10,000. We've also got a couple other issues with windows that'll be falling out if they don't get repaired soon, and a few other things for City Hall. So that's the largest basis of that actually is those heat pumps. The editorialize, I don't know why you build a building this large, and not just use centralized HVAC, but there we have it. So that's long term. We have 7 of those units on this building, and long term, you got to think about those costs a lot of money to replace. But anyway, that's what that's about.
Right, below. Any conversation with regards to going to solar?
I think we would be hard pressed to find some solutions to that because one of the largest solar providers actually just went bankrupt recently. And their warranties and deeds are not any longer being managed because they're bankrupt. So I don't think, it would be about triple the price. And I don't think we'd be able to even consider a vendor at this point. That entire sector has lost all of its political backing right now, so it's pretty belly up.
Thanks.
Good question, though. Thank you very much, Claire. Anything down there, Sheena, on support services?
So the only question that I had is, I noticed the pay listed for the finance director is lower than what's actually being advertised for, so is that split?
But that is split, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in a couple of departments.
And I think I noticed some of
URA.
it was in URA.
Yep.
And I didn't know where else. I was trying to track that.
Yeah.
Anything else on support services? All right. All righty. Police fund. Chief Doyle, you want to chime in?
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me now. Certainly a better perspective this year than last year. To use Mr. Nurberg's terminology, certainly not a robust budget, but definitely much better than we were working with last year. All of the mission critical elements are covered. Granted, the largest portion of our budget is personnel related. But I think we'll be in a solid position to move forward the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Chief. Sheena, anything?
No.
Anybody? Oh, yes, Mr. Sandberg.
I noticed an
Sanborn.
increase from $5,000 to $26,110 in overtime. I'm assuming that's to reflect actual costs.
Sandberg.
It is. So this year, when I prepared these figures, that's ballpark of where we were. In prior years, that hadn't necessarily been accounted for. So we're forecasting a little bit. That's largely a function of staffing, as you're well aware. When staffing numbers dwindle and you have to bring folks in on overtime, that pool depletes rapidly. But hopefully, with our present situation and staffing, that'll maintain. So that's the projected figure that I think we're going to be looking at for the next fiscal year.
Thank you.
And in the historical data, that's just, it's not line item because it's embedded in the officer pay. It's just not split out?
In this budget, I'm not seeing that it has been specifically split out. I know that is done, but, we went through a period of time, preceding my administration here where we were fully staffed, and that helped to keep those overtime numbers lower. But as we have experienced folks being out on illness and other issues, we have incurred more overtime. But again, I'm hopeful that as we move forward and our staffing levels stay where they're at, we won't impinge that as significantly.
Right.
Quick, go ahead, Ms. Martin.
Parking officer, estimated for 26 is 120,000, and 27 is nothing. There's nothing for 24, there's nothing for 25.
Correct.
Nothing for 26, but then estimates.
So that line item, or that was used in our budget to track some exceptional expenses that we had in the police department that were related to personnel, but not paying personnel per se. So there's legal fees in there for a particular HR issue, as well as one of the things that I forgot to mention in my opening message, where I was stunned to find out, I should have known it, but when I was doing the budget, I figured out that at some point the city chose to not pay unemployment premiums, but simply to pay a bill whatever unemployment pays. Never heard of that before. I didn't even realize it was illegal to do that, but it is apparently in Oregon, and our city chose not to pay those premiums. So that makes unemployment a pretty dicey thing, and from an administrative standpoint, you can fight unemployment in this state. Yeah, good luck with that. So that cost us quite a bit of money this year that was unanticipated.
So, is your thought process to at some point in the future change that? Or
yes, when we get a new finance director,
I'm pretty sure it's projected too in here, unemployment insurance.
Yeah.
I thought I saw some line items for it being projected.
right, so those are in theory reserves, but those are not big enough reserves, to cover what you end up really paying. And so we had some long-term unemployment that we had to reimburse, and it was a lot more than those would ever cover.
Is uniform maintenance covered?
So that would recover replacement or repair of damaged uniforms.
One question I had, Chief, well, actually two. What is longevity?
So that's part of the collective bargaining agreement in place for the officers. So at certain milestones with the city, as part of their negotiated bargaining agreement, they receive a incentive.
And there's no income or expense for any grants for like seatbelt or traffic safety. You're not applying for any, or?
We haven't applied for any at this time. I've received notification today at the chiefs and sheriffs meeting that ODOT's, the majority of those funds come from ODOT. And their estimate is they're not going to be able to fund many of those grants. In terms of the other grants, there are some grants possibly on the horizon that I'm keeping an eye on, but there just aren't a plethora of grants to fund personnel and or materials, unfortunately.
I can verify that.
Okay. Anything else on the police department?
Well, I just thought of something that, it's not a comment on the budget, but I may have to declare a potential conflict. I teach the Reserve Officer Training Academy, and I get paid for doing that. And this year, Ryan is going to have a candidate there, so some of the funds in this budget may go into my pocket. So I may need to declare a conflict as to the police budget.
As long as you declare that on your state forum in February, I think you're okay.
Fine, I just for purposes of the public meeting laws and all of that stuff, I think I need to say that.
Thank you.
So we're clear on that. I don't think it prohibits me from voting, I'm just letting you know that.
Yeah, it does not.
That there may be a personal interest there.
Anything else on police? All righty. How about planning? Haley.
Hello. Let me know if you have any questions.
Hello.
Sheena, any questions?
It looks good.
Sam?
No, just thank you for your work, man. It's just great.
Easy.
Wow, you got off easy. I thought you were going to have a few questions.
Yeah, the ratios were good.
Next one, code enforcement. I don't think anyone has any questions on this one.
No, looks like, I'm assuming it's been eliminated, or since there's no projections based off of it, and then we're just reporting because we have to for a certain amount of years.
Right, it needs to remain in the budget for X number of years, and as it's unfunded, I think it's 5 years. You have to carry those. We've got a couple other funds that are, kind of in the same boat, if you will.
Are there any thoughts if things improve that we could bring something back in, to handle code enforcement? Something I hear in another says to things are, let's not code, no one's being called to account with regards to property.
If I could, I think that they are, but the fact is there's no budget there, so the duties are being absorbed into other departments, and largely to the city manager.
Okay.
And we're, with all of us helping, so yeah, I'm sure there's an interest, once the money's there, to actually have a budget for that and and pay somebody for that time instead of all of us doing it.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
Is it that much? Are there that many complaints and things?
Yeah, and it's not just the level of complaints, it's the level of problems. And, that level just goes up and down. Sometimes it's seasonal, but they're always there. And it is something you have to keep on top of. And is, of course, the sort of thing that gets worse if you don't keep on top of it.
Right.
I can also pitch in on this because all the complaints have came to the fire department for the last 3 or 5 years. I still get numerous complaints every single day. Somebody's calling about the neighbor's grass or the neighbor's this or the neighbor's that. it takes a lot of time. I haven't done it a whole lot, but when Mr. Wells was here doing it, I did do a few ride-alongs to figure out kind of how it worked. And it doesn't get done in a hurry, right? You send out a notice, and that gives them 21 days. And then at the 21 day, you go back, and then it gives them 14 days, and then 7 days. And it takes a lot of man-hours to do that. And some people are real responsive, and then other people were not. So it did take up a lot of time and hours to do that. Now, if something major, we were having this conversation, then yes, there will still be somebody to handle the major code incidences, but just like the neighbor mad because the other neighbor has long grass, like that's, I just don't see that being a high priority at this point in time, for man hours at least.
I hear it more with regards to the downtown core buildings.
Yeah.
Forrest, are we hamstringed by the state in any way on time frames and responding, or can we make our own rules and respond maybe more timely?
Those are municipal codes, so, and it really doesn't specify that the city must address this in X. And the state, not really. They don't really care about local code very much on the nuisance side.
Anything else on that one?
So for now, it's not really for this committee, but
Many of us are out there with different circles of influences. If somebody has a significant complaint,
do we direct them towards you?
Yeah, that's fine. And you hear mumbling and stuff. But, I mean, we know there's areas, and I will say when we get a new finance director, I mean, I used to do code enforcement. I love it. It's kind of fun. It's a good stress reliever. Get out of the office and, kick the tires. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that more this summer.
Cool.
yeah, just hats off to you and Chief. I mean, I don't need to go over the details, but I had one, and I don't normally do that because I don't like to be the one driving around town, but I had a complaint personally, and it was just a city thing, and
they took care of it immediately, so thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Okay. How about Parks and Recreation?
I guess my comment here would be, I think this is a small yet diverse budget is a really good example of what Forrest was talking about in the opening of operating costs, coming up. I mean, the city continues to support parks at a good level, in fact, our overall budget is a little higher, this year, but materials and services is down 25%, so basically, yeah, the budget's a little more, but we've got to find a way to, operate with a little less money in there. So, no comment. I think, we went through the numbers. They're where they need to be for us to operate.
I was curious whether or not it's anticipating or even seeing a reduction in costs given the adopted part program going forward.
No, I think that really just results in a little better product at the park. It's not lower cost for us. I mean, what we're going to take care of the basics that that need the nuts and bolts that have to be taken care of.
The mowing and the maintenance of the equipment and all that stuff handled by Public Works or is there dedicated to SD?
Yeah, that's within Public Works. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Real quick, so I know this dropped by 25% in materials. Is that something that would be eligible for the state revenue sharing?
Well, yeah, I mean,
If we had a need for it on a project?
well, and I will say that, yes, the materials portion dropped, but then you look at the wages, which went up $22,000 on a $129,000 budget. So, part of it's the balancing act, right? The cost of employees and keeping them, in there. I mean, that affects other things. But yes, to answer your question, yes, it would be.
Okay. Anything else on Parks and Rec? All right. Let's move on to community service.
Oh, it's at the bottom. Yeah, I don't think any comments here. You'll see some difference in the way the budget looks, but that's mostly because how we're accounting for one of our big expenses, which is the lifeguards, and the way we're administering that program this year. But again, appreciate the city supporting community services. And continuing to at the same level, and once again, we'll continue to try and operate as best we can with the with having to account for the rising costs in here, utility wise. But we'll keep trying to make smart moves. I talked about a big capital expense probably coming up with the boiler sooner or later. I think we don't have to go overboard with that. I mean, there are some things with the steam distribution. If that system starts to go, that'll be another expense. But ultimately that'll result in a little better efficiency too. So again, our costs will go down. The lighting project really help our costs drop. We'll just look for ways to save over there and keep the pool as best we can operating at a net zero. It's not quite there, but I think with the donations that come in, it gets darn close. So yeah, and
whether it's at URA possible.
I think any project in the community buildings
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
the other thing we don't ever address directly at budget time, and it's too much to do at budget time, of course, is fees, and that's something that's related to community services and where they rely, where their small contribution to the general fund is there, and never very popular to raise fees, but sometimes it does become a reality. We need to look at that. So another good reason to update fees next chance we get, probably.
You're talking about fees like swimming pool fees?
Yeah, rental fees, all fees, yeah. Parks fees, it's,
When's the last time we looked at those, or that?
last fee update, I think we did, reconfirm them right around 2021, right after I got here. Wasn't that right?
Yeah.
And I think that we didn't increase over there. We didn't make many changes over there to community building. I think they were still pretty fresh then. But the last time a big update, I think like that was done was 2021, maybe early 2022.
Yeah, and I think our community building swim pool is so awesome, and so I mean we any little amount we raise, it's not like we're making bank, right? But if we make small incremental changes to that, it's absorbed better. People understand that because we're trying to run it and steward those resources well. And so we might down the road as a council want to revisit that.
So that actually brings up a question for me, because I know Judy Gadaris has done a lot of fundraising, and so we have some funds like that set aside for things that the pool may need. Are we requesting those from her?
We track that separately, and then we kind of pick and choose good candidates to spend that money on, the boosters, and they really like to support the guards and the betterment of the area and updates to large equipment, and then every once in a while big equipment for us, like that, we bought a $8,000 really nice vacuum for them, and then one for the guards that the guards could use. So that's tracked in there and factored into all that, and it's a great source for capital purchases like you're talking about. Like, for example, we just found out we had to update the Square system out there. The iPad was outdated, so then you couldn't get a new iPad in the Square holder, and so we bought the whole package, and it's nice. That booster money just makes that easy to go ahead and get those types of equipment. Yeah.
So that's from the booster, but what about from the funds that Judy's raised? We hold those.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's what I call it. I call it the boosters. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's that money. The sign, the fish,
Gotcha.
the fish.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because I think the last couple of years she's called me and she's like, well, I guess, I don't think she's doing as many fundraisers with it, because I don't know that the fund's being used more aggressively, or she's just kind of like, I think we'll just do another stay.
Yeah, it is. She's given a lot of her donors a bit of a vacation the last couple of years. So that revenue is slow, but it's still there. You know, the fund is still there, and it's still even though she didn't put in a lot last year, I don't think we took out more than she put in. So there's still a healthy amount in there. It's nice that to have should equipment come up and break.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I don't think it needs to be reserved too heavily, just because then we'll just do more fundraising.
Yeah.
Give them a goal. But yeah, I noticed that because like in your letter, I think you mentioned like updating the chairs and stuff like that. That might be something.
Yeah,
that would really
exactly the type of thing. Yeah, that we use that for.
Perfect.
Like Mr. Frazier, I may have a potential conflict here as my daughter is a guard and is on track to be a guard this year, so.
And just to point out, another thing on that fund just really quickly is that if you look at, where is it, seasonal lifeguard personnel, that's zero. You're like, oh yeah, we're getting them for free. She's working for free, did you know that? No, but those are actually on page 23, contract employees swimming pool. So that moved to there, so basically they're not our employees, directly. So that actually saves us a lot of hassle, I think, and so.
Being like vendored out through like Cardinal or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, that hopefully will save everybody some time and effort. We'll see.
Yeah.
Historically, we've done that. I think North Bend does that, so we thought we'd give that a shot and see if it was more efficient for us.
Bear with me 1 second. Anything else on community services? Okay.
Streets.
All righty, so on to number 9, discussion of additional funds, part 1, state street tax fund.
Or the street fund, as is commonly known in our budget.
Any questions on the state street tax fund?
No, it's.
Can someone explain to me the cash available beginning fund balance? I've seen on a couple of sections, but I don't understand it.
That would be the carryover cash coming into the new fiscal year.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just have one correction to my planning memorandum that went along with this budget, and that was the projects we were going to possibly apply to the ODOT grant for, and I named 2 of them here, North Birch and North Henry, and we went with neither. But we discussed that at the last council meeting, and we just put in for, to pay from Central to 17th Street.
I forgot to bring that up on Monday, but quick questions. How do you plan on doing that? That is not wide enough to accommodate 2 lanes of traffic.
Well, it's wide enough, according to, what the engineer looking at it, we could get to 18 feet. There is some property we'd be using or obtaining from the school district over there, that first lot. But other than that, the right-of-way is 35. So with a little retaining wall work, he thinks he can get us to 18 all the way through there. So now you may argue, is 18 feet really 2 lanes of traffic? And I guess I'd respond back, it's a little better than we have now.
Yeah.
So where is 35 feet on both sides of Fur, or because you got houses and property on the west side and you got 2 cemeteries on the other side?
Yeah, there's 35 feet of right-of-way up in there, past the school, which is now the
Past the
farm.
school, but I'm talking from Central to
Right.
17th.
Right. I think we're only at about 14 to 18 feet in there, and it's shifted over from where the built road is right now. The built road right now is on that property. So, you know.
Okay, I didn't need to bring it up now, but I forgot on Monday night, so. Because that'll be interesting. Any other questions on state streets? System development.
So if you look at the STC fund, you know, there's some projected revenues from that. We actually have been, you know, getting some contributions to that this year by new buildings, new houses or ones that get a new service, those kind of things. There was a project in the community that is unfinished, but that would be a large amount of STC funds. But since that's been lagging for I don't know how many months, we did not budget for that. Hopefully that will come to fruition. So we just have some, you know, minimal additional receipts, kind of based on our experience of the past year.
Thank you.
If I can just ask, sorry, but system development charges, so the money then is reserved for system development. What would be a common system development that we would expend that money towards?
The water and the sewer money, the STC money we get for that has to be spent on either treatment expansion or, you know, transmission or collection expansion out there. So, you know, like the sewer money, what I would put that towards would be, you know, an additional press out there, more press. That's a bottleneck, that's capacity right there. You know, we could also easily apply that money to the, well, I guess on the water side, it would be, you know, just, you know, our bottlenecks up there, so.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I was kind of assuming that. As that builds, there might be a project and you need a little more cash infused, so that's where you would draw from that.
There are also, you know, if you run out of projects on the plant, there's always areas where we could serve a little more if we could run a little more sewer main, you know, out there, and that would be a use of, you know, a good use of that money.
Yep. Great, thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Anybody else on system development? Gina? Nothing?
Nope.
Capital projects.
Well, you've got a large water project that's in the capital projects fund as, you know, both revenue and expenditure. A small transfer from the general fund and Riverwalk grant, which is kind of an annual amount. I think it varies a little bit, but that's basically the number. So you've just got, you know, this is a complex fund because there's stuff in here that has nothing, but that's the revenue side. Support services has no capital projects in here. Parks has Riverwalk improvement projects that are in this proposed budget. Water, there's that water project, so you saw the two revenues, and then there's the expenditures for that. Sewer doesn't have any major projects this year in capital projects. Urban renewal, we haven't listed individual projects in here of late. We have a couple of potential projects, but since they're not existent just yet, we'll just do them out of the large line item in the URA for projects. Streets, as we said, not a lot of major projects. Library, you know, and part of this is like library, we had that big project there, and these are just zeroed out, and they have to remain in here for, you know, a number of years. Fire ambulance, once again, you know, we had the fire hall roof and remodel project, we did all that, and so basically that's what you got.
Any other questions on capital projects?
I do. So on the forgivable loan and then the loan portion, when can we apply for the forgiveness and when does the loan?
These are funds that we've already been awarded, Sheena?
Correct, but, so on the, when do we apply for the forgiveness of it? So don't we have to spend the
so
funds and then apply
project-
for the
yes.
forgiveness?
The project needs to be completed, it has to, be completed within the scope of the agreement, and if you get all that stuff done, then you can apply for forgiveness.
Okay, and so then when are the payments scheduled to start?
They start right after completion on these, which is really nice, instead of starting this year.
Okay.
So
When
we
do
don't accrue interest or anything until that
right.
time. It's just,
Okay.
they're funding the project up until completion. But we do have our deadline, and they hold us to that, so they know.
What's our deadline currently?
October of next year, I think, for this.
Awesome, okay.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I don't see interest expense calculated. so-
October 2027, we got to be buttoned up, I'm pretty much, I think.
So next year's budget will feature interest
Okay, cool.
charges.
I'm done, Jay, thank you.
Wait, I have one. What is your major proposed improvement for Riverwalk? It's like 141,000?
Well, we don't have any yet. So, the way that endowment works is that they don't, Haley's been reporting on that, but they don't require that we spend that money, but if they don't, they kind of want to know some long-term plans. So we've given them some ideas, one idea was that we were going to use a lot of that to contribute our portion for the expansion of the Riverwalk. So we were kind of saving it, for that. So that's not happening now. So I guess I could say we're open, and I think, I see an opportunity to even partner maybe with the URA on some development down there, some projects, even if starting something as simple as parking improvements, in the first lot. Like that rock work we did to connect, the dirt, the end of the paved road to the walk down there that's what we use this money for that, a lot of the treatment, the weed abatement and stuff down there, and the clearing and crack sealing and stuff, so, right, well, the restroom did, right, but we haven't really had a big project since then, we've had some just small ones, so.
Cool, thank you. It is used more and more and more, high traffic, Riverwalk. Yeah. And they all sing your praises for improving the end of that trail with the rock. Literally, I get nothing but comments about, we're so grateful the city did that. And so, yeah, thank you.
Anything else before we move on to the library? How about the library fund and library memorial fund?
Happy to answer any questions you might have.
What's professional care? I know there's no money involved there, but I'm just curious, what is it?
Where is it?
Transfer from perpetual care?
Yeah, there used to be a perpetual care fund that we utilized, like, was kind of a holding fund, and a lot of things got transferred there to other departments. But you just don't see it, that's an antiquity.
One of those things that has to hang out for a long time.
Yeah,
Someone told me that's an like 5 years or something.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And the library, anything on the memorial fund?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave.
What is your full-time equivalents at this point?
Give me just a second. Little over 3.
A little over 3?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that compare to last fiscal year?
We lost 50 hours with the cuts last year, 50 hours per week. So over one full-time person last year.
Anything else for Teresa? Anything on the library memorial fund?
Keep things.
That's just a placeholder, I think.
I think you are correct. It's there, so I'm just dotting my i's. Community support fund. Anybody?
Has the fee that was instituted last year brought us into the black? Well, I must be on the wrong one, the ambulance.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, you're a little ahead of us there, Sean.
All right. Nothing else on community support. Now we'll move on to the ambulance.
There we go.
Chief Latimer.
If you look on here, you'll see that we have a 4th paramedic firefighter position that was added. This was at my request to Forrest here. With the amount of calls that we're running and the increase every single month, my guys are just dog tired. We're taking a lot of transfers, and having them on the road for that amount of hours is just starting to become dangerous. So that was the one main thing that I asked Forrest if we could do, and potentially look at revisiting our shift schedules to maybe go back to 24s. Some of the guys were hip to it, some of them weren't. Some of them want to stay on 48s. But the other thing that we were talking about was potentially running 2 full-time ambulances. We got that grant from the State Fire Marshal's office. This year they've extended it into EMS as well. So we have a $40,000 grant that we're actually going to implement this summer and try to do the second full-time ambulance to see how that's going to do with calls and hopefully be able to get some guys some more time home with their family. Because we're just constantly getting second-out calls, third-out calls, fourth-out calls. And so having 2 fully staffed ambulances, I think, is going to be a huge benefit.
Thank you, Zach. Sean, did you have a comment?
Yeah. Has the fee brought us into the black?
No. It's close, but no.
Very close.
I talked with the third-party billing gal this afternoon. After we struggled getting all the paperwork that they asked for originally, we gave it to them, and then they wanted, some more. Finally got a hold of her this afternoon. Hopefully, everything will be good to go by the end of the week, and hopefully by the 15th of this month, we can go live with it. So it'll be a soft live for that third-party billing, but fingers crossed that nothing happens between now and then, and we can start going live with it and start making some money.
Yeah. Forrest, are you kind of, or Zach, between the two of you, are you kind of penciling out stuff to see where this might project us moving forward month to month with, like I said, penciling?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I've run some, you'll call them some napkin calculations. But it's really, I really think we're going to need a couple months of experience, see how close those are, and then that will lead to, the levy discussions. Right now, I kind of feel like we may still need one, but it'd be a lot less than we had previously discussed. There's stuff in here that you just go, contractual dispatching for ambulance, let's say went up, 3 times. It went from $7,000 to $20,000. So, it's partly based on call volume. I get all that, but there's just stuff like that. You're like, well, there's just a kick in the head kind of thing. So, I think that they're doing a great job, and they're handling a huge call volume. It's just sometimes, Chief will come in and tell me, yes, this weekend we did, 18 calls between fire and ambulance. It's like, wow. So I don't know. People seem to rely on that, but we'll see how the billing goes.
Is your 740,000
Ambulance service
revenue? I'm assuming that's a conservative number based on call volume and what you're napkin penciling. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Question, what was it?
Oh, Sean, to answer your question, I think on our meeting this last Monday, I think we were in the red about $50,000.
Yes, that's correct.
We're really, Honestly, based on where we're at, so we're really close. It's good.
So I just wanted to answer that.
Yeah, it's a lot closer.
So at this point, you don't have a clear idea about what kind of loan you might be asking for?
No, I mean, you know, I know what we thought the number was going to be, but I think it will be significantly lower. You know, I think we talked about 24, 25, half that maybe would be my current guess. If these projections are solid, we could probably go there.
Now, is any thought at all given to having something dedicated fund for ambulance rather than a series of serial levies, for instance, forming a service district and have a property tax base?
Well, that would be interesting. Actually don't think, if I recall all these discussions we had about that, that you cannot make an ambulance service district.
Okay, because I know with other services.
Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, and then we have this interesting thing too, where there is a health service district in Coquille already, and you can't, in theory, you could have two. But it does get complicated, so, I mean.
Because the problem is, if you're dependent on serial levies, what do you do so that you don't pass it?
Right, right.
Yeah.
And the hard thing about the health district, so the hospital, you know, controls the health district in Coquille because they are housed here. We could try for a health district, but it'd be different because of the services we provide. We provide pre-hospital care, they provide in-hospital care. But what we'd be allowed to do would kind of be binding because in some senses, we do still do the same services that they have. So the amount of money we could ask for certain items would be kind of obsolete because it's the same care that they do, you know. We've had tons of conversations about this, and it's almost not, more man hours would be involved trying to get it to even potentially pass than.
And then and also the district thing is very complicated, right? Because, I mean, I know you understand finance well, so there's a pie that's 100%. So let's say of the pie here of taxes, 10% go to districts. Well, there can't be more than 10% that go to districts. So if you form a new, you get compression. So you do the next thing and, you know, you're the next one in there and you say, okay, we want this much. Okay, well, you don't get that yield, right? You know, if you look at even, it looks like the compression on districts it's a little fuzzy, but it's like 8 to 10%. So they get asked for more, that much more, but it doesn't pencil out that way, right? It's a really interesting.
On the other hand,
Doesn't compression also apply though to tax levies?
Yes, it does.
And I don't think the rural areas are in compression.
I don't believe they are for tax levies. You know, districts is interesting because, you know, part of our ambulance district extends over other fire districts, you know, all those things. So,
well, part of the hard part is Myrtle Point has a health district, but some of our ASA and some of our clients are in a Myrtle Point address, so they pay to the Myrtle Point Health District even though they're in our ambulance service. Same thing with some of our customers, they're in the Coos Bay Health District and they pay that health district, so that's going to make it difficult for us to double up on a health district on them.
The key issue with the district is that when you create it, it is, as you understand, a special district with a board. So the board members, like your hospital board, get elected on the ballot. Then they're in charge of a district. They have bylaws. They make their own bylaws. It doesn't mean that so they're not going to go and recruit an ambulance service. But it is not necessarily going to be the Coquille Valley Ambulance Service. In fact, somebody who underbids Coquille Valley Ambulance would probably get the service. So that's the big linchpin.
Thanks, Haley. That's a good point.
Yeah, and just to reassure
Everybody, I think part of this process that we've been going through, and now this third-party billing is kind of the biggie, is we brought in consultants to talk through all of this understanding, and we were with not only our chiefs, but with the Rural Fire District Board and some other members to make sure we're doing our part for the ambulance. So just to say, we did bring in professionals and consultants to help us with that as well.
Yeah.
So you're just doing away with fire med and med, not even gonna,
So, I mean, I don't know for sure, I know there was talks about it, I haven't actually sat down and talked with Forrest. I know we do lose a lot of money on it, but I also feel like if we don't keep it, we're gonna lose. With this new third-party billing, we can bill for a non-transport, which prior we have not. So my thing is, if we get rid of it, we may lose some of those people that have the fire med that are, as bad as it sounds, our regular customers. You know, the list says, well, I have fire med, so I'll just call them because they don't understand exactly what it is. But for the non-transport, the third-party billing will pay for that. You know, and I'm not trying to sound money hungry, but that's kind of money that we're going to leave on the table, because if we don't offer that fire med, they may say, well, dang it, we're not going to call. So that's something that I was going to have a conversation with Forrest about, and figured out kind of what way we were leaning on that, because I'm not 100% sure exactly how we were going to move forward with that.
I mean, I would say from an economic standpoint, $2,640 versus the lost revenue isn't a good business sense thing for the ambulance.
I know that Myrtle Point is still keeping theirs, but Bay Cities has gone away with theirs. Myrtle Point's only keeping theirs just for that exact reason of, you know, you have it, they're going to call for it, you know. I've had a lot of conversation with Chief Burris about this kind of stuff, because he's doing the same thing, and he said, you know, it's kind of a catch-22. Yeah, you make $2,600, but you lose $5,000. That makes it tough.
So according to that line item, we have 124 memberships. But according to the ambulance utility fee, we have 1,913 projected for 2027, which is the reason why I say that the biggest piece to this is market strategy. Because like if 124 memberships that are sold to people who don't have insurances, is of course going to be your biggest cost, right? Because you're writing off the most. Instead, if we were to consider something along the lines of taking the fire med to our 4 biggest employers and say, is this something that you could offer to your employees during open enrollment, then that's really low hanging fruit for you to make this maybe even a break even or slightly profitable. Because it is in a category of service. And then you would be capturing people like myself who's never been on an ambulance ride, and you would have gotten $60 from me every year for the last 20 years, and it would have paid for the one time I needed to use it, which is why it's a self-funded insurance policy. So, you know, I think that there's a different strategy to make it, and it's not high priority, but at least to get it to a break-even point where it could be a non-issue for a little bit until other things are settled. And then it could maybe be something that is a little bit higher priority that just gives a buffer. I mean, it's not going to be a huge, I think the average is $50,000 a year that small places like ours will make off of it. I mean, it's not going to be huge, but at least it could be something there to help buffer some of those losses.
Is fire med internal in it? Is it or is it like an outside funded?
No, it's inside.
It's inside.
Yeah, it's basically ours.
But see, what also made it really tough is prior to, you know, let's say you had fire med and you get into a car accident in Coos Bay. Bay Cities would honor that for a slight amount of time. They no longer will. Myrtle Point will no longer honor ours. So that's also kind of deterred.
You have to buy multiple.
That's also kind of deterred some people from wanting to purchase it because it's only in the city limits. Well, I travel to Eugene all the time. Okay, well, I'm not gonna, the chance of me crashing in Coquille are slim.
Yeah.
That's what makes it tough as well.
I just had the thought of if it's a self-funded thing, you spoke about your frequent flyers, you could create a tiered system perhaps.
Yes.
If it was something the city decided to keep.
So before we move on from that, I'm just going to ask if that's something that you, the budget committee, want to see, we can modify that budget for the city council's review, put back in that revenue, and we can offer it, it's July 1, we could offer it for another year. I understand the marketing and all that stuff, and the difficulty is personnel to have time to even do that. The fire and ambulance are stretched very thin, and they're very busy, and, I would say that if it was council priority, we could try to do something. I just, personally see that as a money-losing item.
Do you have an idea of roughly how much money is lost?
Well, I don't off the top of my head, but I know if you have let's say you have $1,000 bill, okay, your insurance pays $700 of that. There's still $300 remaining. You have fire med, we'll write off $150. You owe $150. So.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense, it's.
Yeah, there's not an expense item listed, because I looked for that as well.
Yeah, it's 3,000 or 7,000 revenue from 2025. If you lose double that, then you'd have to, you calculate how many people you'd have to add to at least break even.
Right.
And how much, is it worth all the effort to try to get 100 people added that don't have an ambulance, that are low risk? I don't know. I don't know how much effort it is to,
Right, yeah, we don't have the information.
and such a small, it seems like of all the things going on, maybe it shouldn't be on the effort list for this year.
Chief, you guys started this when you were in place, correct?
Yes, yeah, we started it probably 20-plus years ago. We had probably 400 residents do it, and it was per family, so family of 1, family of 6. But it was basically statewide, anyone that had a fire med. So my family we were in Baker or Pendleton, they would be covered by fire med. But I think as this is dwindling, especially now with Bay Cities, Myrtle Point, probably even statewide, some of those are not going to be covered. So it's not as, it doesn't have the look like it did 20-plus years ago. And I think even we'd have to go back and look, but $9,000, $10,000, but we would lose $6,000, $8,000. That was just a benefit for our citizens. But even back then, it really didn't pencil out. It wasn't profitable.
Now, all insurance, you had to get, right? It's about
Numbers,
getting
yeah.
a lot of people, So it just seems like it'd be a big effort to market it.
One other question, just from my own feeble brain. Is the dispatching service based on a per call as Y years is 1/5 of what the police department is?
So that part I'm not entirely sure. Chief Doyle may be able to answer that a little bit better than I. He has some more experience in that than I do. But I know for us, it's $14 a call. That's what it costs for us. For them to generate a call for us is $14 a call, and I'm not sure what it costs the PD.
Okay.
So I'm not sure why our cost is different than theirs, or do you know, Chief?
They break it down, so when I talked with Chief Chapnar and the head of North Coos, when we looked at the coming year's proposal, it is on a per cost basis. And so with the fire numbers for a dispatch to a structure fire, thankfully we don't have many of those, but it is broken down differently, and tried to get kind of a handle on what the logic or reasoning was behind each of those per call figures. We were looking at I think we saw about a 10% increase in just our services from last year. And I think we can expect as much, possibly more, by what I understand, for next year with North Coast Dispatch is very much still in a building phase. But not a lot of understanding as to, how they came up with assigning that fee per call. Obviously,
Go ahead.
obviously, it's hard to break our dispatch services into the same table because we're running radio traffic all day long.
So it's a volume-driven thing, and you have way more traffic than they do?
Yes.
Is basically how
Yes.
that, okay. All right, I just wanted to just clarify that
Sure.
for myself.
No, it's called.
So, Forrest, back to your question on the ambulance.
We can,
So I
offer that we can try to see how much we're losing on that before the council meeting.
I think it'd be worth it because what I think about is we've raised the water fee and people know we're trying to save the ambulance. But for those who've been paying for fire med, there's a perceived benefit. And so now we're doing one more thing to remove something. Anyways, we just be,
Firemen has never been door-to-door marketed either.
yeah.
I don't think it needs to.
I could go to.
Yeah.
During open enrollment, are you guys interested? I could go to RFP and say, hey, this is what we have. That might be a little more enticing, because the people that, the 124 or whatever people, they're the same people that have been buying the fire med since the 90s.
Every year.
Every
Right,
year.
right.
Yeah.
June 30th or June 1st, either one, they're in there beating down the door.
Well, and that's why they have now moved from low user to high user.
Yeah.
So that's where,
So I'm caught in the middle. I mean, I'm kind of like what Patrick said is the way I feel about it. I don't want to burden staff, but to understand what really is the negative impact, and then also we have potentially a new finance director coming, so it might not hurt to roll over those, to absorb whatever that loss is when we know what that number is, to have a really honest look at it and say, okay, maybe with a new finance director, maybe there's something here, but I'm kind of in the same boat. It's like, I don't know if it's worth the effort, but maybe just knowing what the numbers are.
We'll see if we can work on that. I'll just reiterate, I think A plus B equals a negative number.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we're doing everything we can to try to save this ambulance service, and
Yeah, so the next re-enrollment is July?
July 1st, yeah.
So, I mean, we'd want to be, if we don't want to be negative because we're trying to save the ambulance, then that's when we'd end it.
So, I believe that any self-funded insurance is a losing proposition financially. Have we reached out to insurance companies or things like that to make it a truly an insurance policy that they could use somewhere else, for which that's sponsored by the city, and perhaps the city gets some kind of benefit?
I'm not aware of an ambulance thing like that. I mean, air ambulance, so you can get that like for $80 a year, and that pencils out certainly for you, but then they have hundreds of thousands of members, right? Yeah, I mean, we can look into it. I'm not adverse to looking into that. I'm just, yeah. Well, how about we agree we'll work on that a little bit and, come back to the council with some information?
Just for clarification's sake, I happen to have the dispatch contract here in front of me, and so our dispatch services are based off population. And they break down fire and EMS based on a per call annum. So for us, we're looking at, they're listing our population at 4,052 at a cost of $28 per.
PD is off of population, we're off a call basis.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
And they're in the most recent proposal, they're not making there's not a breakdown between, they're billing fire and EMS at the same rate of $14 per call.
Okay. All righty. So I I think that took care of additional funds, Part 1, and enterprise funds. Is that correct? Because ambulance,
Yeah,
both of them?
I forgot to, add and delete or whatever I did there.
All righty. Anything else on ambulance before we move on?
I have one last question on that one.
Of course you do.
You're welcome. So, previously, we didn't have such a large contingency reserve. We're almost at 10% of the budget. Is there something in particular that we're reserving that for or anticipating? 125,000?
In a perfect, well, partly they were looking to carry over cash, and since we have an unknown revenue thing, in a perfect world, if all this revenue stuff works, then that would go towards, and then would go to the equipment reserve for another ambulance.
All right.
So that's the theory.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Perfect. All righty. How about the Water Enterprise Fund? So, Water Fund is holding up. We're running in the black like we should be, and building up that war chest again like we should be for Phase 2, which is going to be a lot of distribution, the old lines. But as far as Phase 1 goes, we've got the reservoir, both the raw water and the treated water reservoir, that work going on, and, that'll take away a lot of liability. It'll also take away some, for the short term anyway, some maintenance costs, so, that's helpful. And we will have some debt service coming out of that, but I think that's a 1.7 at 30 years at 1%, I think is only about $65,000 a year. So it's not that bad when when you look at our budget for that project. So the type of funding that we need, that of course in the grant money, which we still intend to go after, for the plant and the force main. We still intend to go after that block grant, and the city can get the books up to speed to satisfy the funders. I think that we'll get it, and in grant form. So that's great, and then we can focus on the distribution system. But as we get through these projects, that will be the next step. Of course, to fund the rest of the plant work, and then look at scope out Phase 2. But this will, running in the black gives you a little protection there, for big equipment failures, which, just they happen. And will allow us to do some of the more critical projects. You can do small main replacements, and as you pave, it allows you a little water fund money to go, under those streets, so you don't have to dig them up later if you're about to pave them now. But I think the numbers are where they need to be operating-wise, and, any questions? What is your $112,000 franchise fee? Is that something that is paid to the city as a franchise fee?
Yes, that's correct. It's an actual.
As it's an enterprise?
Yep.
Perfect.
So a combination, basically, they don't use that language.
When I complained about it, Rick Holmbaum said they could increase it. Let's not bring his name into this. Didn't say anything after that. And then they did anyway, but, that happens.
You needed that in an email. It's staying right here.
It can't, like my rates can't stay the same, the franchise fee won't stay the same, so, All righty. Anything on water, Sheena?
Nope.
Sewer.
Start making stuff up.
That's okay.
We're rolling.
Sewer, Mark, you're still up, buddy.
So, sewer also, you can see there we're building that war chest up again. Nothing planned. I did have one very late, as in minutes before this meeting, change I proposed to the budget officer, in that I wanted to move at least $50,000 out of contingency for next year, which right now we're showing 266, and I think that's a conservative estimate. We'll be higher than that, and barring some catastrophe, between now and July, we'll do a little better than budget. But yeah, to put that up into the capital outlay, that group 430 up there under I&I control. And the reason for that being, I know I'm going to spend some money on that effort this year. That's going to start, whether that's just some planning, engineering, and or some minor work, is, you know, for TV inspections and flushing and such. That's all going to be part of that, the I&I reduction work. So, but other than that, I'm happy to answer questions about any of these numbers or any.
I probably should have asked it earlier, but there's 235 requested for 27 and 520 proposed. Was that part of that money that you said you moved somewhere else? Why is there such a big difference?
That was some adjustments as we went on the fly and in predicting. So, you know, the requested was quite a while ago, and then we started, you know, refining numbers, and then Mark and I sat down and went through it, and we're like, oh yeah, it's really going to be this much. So it's really just a difference in projections.
Okay.
In a good kind of way.
If we recommend this budget, do we need to make that change? Add that change of 50,000?
Yeah, if the committee recommends that budget, I would, you know, recommend the proposed changes to the sewer budget.
So moved.
Well, when you get to that part.
Oh, okay. I was excited.
No moving tonight.
So assuming that happens, then when you see the next level of budgeting, the approved, that's approved by this committee.
Okay.
And then adopted is adopted by the city council, so that those little changes will be made.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All righty. Anything else on sewer?
I was just curious on the sludge basin from the meeting the other night. Where's that factoring in? We're needing to remodel that, right, or replace?
Oh, the basin?
Yeah.
That was the settling basin at the water plant.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is in the Phase 1 project that didn't get funded, but is still there, and we still expect to.
Still doing it.
Replacement of that whole sludge removal system, yeah, on the.
When I was looking back through that, and it said that it wasn't funded. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah, it's still in that package, and we're still going to present it to the block grant people, you know, at the next opportunity, provided we're caught up.
All right.
But you have mentioned needing to get a new press, right?
Right, yep.
Yeah, how much was that, Mark?
I'm sorry?
How much was that press?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't that $250,000. I said, you know, it's probably full-blown, it's about $1 million, slightly over $1 million project, which is also about what is needed for, you know, to really make a good impact on the I&I project. Really, I mean, with $500,000, we could make a decent impact on it, but, yeah, so again, a little, you know, those projects are a little more approachable than, you know, what we're looking at the water plant. So, you know, those are the type of things that this $50,000, you start putting that and some engineering time towards it and doing some small projects, find out, prepare those, you know, funding packages there, or the applications, and you know, so go to our one-stop meeting once again. But, you know, we won't, of course, show up at those until, you know, all the books are in line, everything's in order, and we're ready to go.
Okay. Anything else? Stormwater.
Yeah, that's a goose egg.
That's a 0. So no questions on stormwater, right? All righty. How about we move on to additional funds, part 2, fire fund. Zach, you're back up.
There wasn't a whole lot in here that I saw that I had anything, but if you guys have any questions, I'll answer them the best that I can.
We can't squeeze another couple grand out of the rural district?
So, I actually went to their budget meeting 2 weeks ago, and they actually cut their budget down by $85,000, so.
So we just take the 2 and run?
We just take the 2 and we take the 2.
Okay.
that budget, there's a transfer to equipment reserve, and that's to fund the payments on our tender.
Right, the 100,000?
Yep.
Yeah. I remember.
And so, just for clarification, on on the salary part, we have decided to pull the paramedics and the paramedics and the EMTs and move them back to ambulance and not splitting them up like we had done in previous years.
Correct. Yeah, and part of that was to actually show the true cost of it. We were kind of hiding that in fire, which was okay when we could afford to do it.
It's better.
The volunteer fire department, how come there's $1,000 in overtime?
Well, because back when we had it, when the paramedic firefighters, so when they were paid half, they would get half overtime out of the ambulance fee, half overtime out of the fire side.
Anything else on? Can we not move the fire hall to natural gas for a heat source? It's got to stay oil?
It is natural gas.
What's the $4,000 for heat oil?
That I don't know, because we have it is natural gas out in front of the fire department, so.
Well, we could take a look at that.
Because there's no, it's just heat oil, electric, and telephone. There's nothing in there for natural gas. I guess.
Well, that telephone, they're pretty expensive, I guess, because I asked Forrest about it the other day. I said, we're paying $2,000 for phones? And he's like, they're phones. That's what you gotta pay for them. I was like, holy Moses. But, yeah, we do run natural gas there, so I'm not sure what the heat oil portion of it. I know before we went natural gas, it was an oil, because the big oil tanks out back.
Right.
Or is that?
Well, actually, it was right underneath the front door.
Oh, okay.
2,000-gallon oil tank, that was put in when it was built.
Because now it's out back, right? That's that big drum out back when they pulled it out when they redid the steps.
That could be.
They pulled it out and it's sitting out back in the back lot, but yeah, it's not being utilized. It's natural gas running through there.
I guess I didn't.
That is fascinating, since there's expenditures this year in heating oil, and there is not a line item for natural gas, so I guess we'll have to figure that one out.
There's oil left in that thing.
And the telephone's 7?
Right.
Well, for electricity and phone, they're all both the same, so between the phone and the electrical, I think that's what that is for.
It's at 7,000 and 7,000.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. And how they had left on top of the
Yeah, because you pay just as much in electric as you do in telephone.
77.
7,000.
Anything else on fire fund? All right, let's move on to the sidewalk.
Oh, there's an easy one.
So there's $4,000 available for someone's sidewalk.
Correct.
Why?
Why? Well, we were going to have a sidewalk program at some point, and we haven't really got there yet.
Okay. So, any questions on the sidewalks? All righty. How about we move on to property management?
So that fund is basically gets revenues. The primary revenue in there is sale of timber. And then we have the charter cable ODOT lease for $5,000. That's basically all the revenues. We've got a little expenses, a little admin, cost of sales for property timber, because that's an ongoing thing. We like to receive that and all that. Then we have the notes payable, principal interest on City Hall. And that is, and then the transfer to the general fund would be the transfer of the timber revenues to the general fund to essentially fund the starting balance of next year.
Okay.
So that is that fund.
Curiosity, under revenue, What is the CDBG Adams Street assets?
Community Development Block Grant.
The what?
Under property management,
Yeah.
under revenue, you have the CDBG Adams Street assets.
So that is an old CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant. That's an old grant that obviously hasn't been on the sheet since I've been here, so I don't know what that was for.
Probably when Adams Street was paved in there in the 90s.
Probably something that could be,
I don't know how long they have to keep them on here, but yeah, that was.
probably something that could go away eventually. Anything else on property management? How about Equipment Reserve Fund?
So as you recall, we have an established equipment reserve fund. We've got a number of things in there. You've got the capital outlay tender, which is payments on that. So if you notice one difference in the expenditures, materials and services, we originally had in 2027 requested $35,000 for the public works truck, but that literally has been moved in the proposed to $75,000 for the public works flatbed truck. That was something that Mark did and I discussed when we were doing this. So they got their pickup truck this year, right? And so we got to transfer in from 3 departments essentially to fund that deal. And then some of these other funds are just, we've got revenues that come in, like we're building funds for the police repeater. Police car went up a little bit. Police car cameras, not so much this year. And capital outlay ambulance, a little bit towards that. So that is about all that's in there.
Chief Doyle, are you looking at getting another car for $35,000?
Not this fiscal year. Not this fiscal year. The cars that we have been getting from Kansas Highway Patrol, in some talks with Mr. Nuremberg, I just don't think it pencils out. By the time we get those vehicles, keeping in mind, they're coming to us just shy of 50,000 miles, but I think what we're seeing there is in the first year to 2 years, we're seeing several $1,000s in maintenance, fixing things that are occurring, keeping in mind that, 49,000 miles on a patrol car are different miles than your daily driver. So I think in reality, we're probably not far away from, by the time we get one of those vehicles and we outfit it, and then a year goes by and we put another, $2,000, maybe $800-900 here and there in it, we're not far from what we'd be spending on a new vehicle, and we'd be forestalling that period of time to where we were going to have to start putting funds for repairs into it would be lengthened.
So we can scratch that line item?
No, sir. This is a reserve item, so it's for future, right? This is equipment reserve fund. So we build up those funds over time.
Pardon me. You're right. Never mind.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute.
Please don't.
We're just setting aside money for years. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Reserve. That's what reserve means. Must be almost time to be done. Anything else on the Equipment Reserve Fund? Okay. How about the Reserve Fund? We might make it.
Okay, so that fund, obviously you see that, once again, it's a reserve fund, so we have built up some fund balances in there. This fund includes, some yearly revenue items like, Shop with Heroes. So you got, donations, Shop with Heroes. There's a police evidence fund, which we were required to set up for retained police evidence cash, if you will. Police reserve donations, pool donations. Canine donations is now a zero. And then, we have these other reserves that have all been moved into generally where they occur, like the water and sewer, if there's water and sewer loans, those kind of things. Shop with Heroes. We've got the Pool Community Support Fund. And so that is where, what did you call that, Mark?
Boosters?
The boosters, that's the booster fund. Yes, thank you.
I was just getting asked about that, sorry.
Yes, so that's the booster fund, we'll call it for tonight. And then you've got all these loan reserves, which is a huge amount of cash is tied up, $519,580. And those are required reserves for DEQ loans, the state, the City Hall Loan Reserve, USDA, and the new loan required reserve is required. That's actually for the water project, which we haven't incurred yet, but we started to create the reserve for it because we know how much that's going to be. So that's what that fund basically does is hold funds either for reserves on obligations we have for loans and fees, and then some smaller things.
Any questions on the reserve funds? All right, we're going to get out of here before 8 o'clock, just so you know. All right, we're going to recess the City Budget Committee hearing, and we are going to now open a public hearing on the city budget.
So, Mr. Chairman, I believe I have presented the entire city budget with the exception of the URA to the committee, and you certainly can take public comments on those.
I see that we're just inundated with public comment, so. I will reserve my comments for later. Alrighty, so I'm going to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the City Budget Committee meeting. And at this point, I will ask for committee action and recommendation on the city budget.
Where the motion is?
This is where you'd have a motion.
Well, I can make a motion to adopt.
No, your motion is going to recommend to the city council.
The city council, the proposed budget, or the budget presented to this committee with the addition of $50,000 marked on the sewer. Do I need to do that?
With the movement of $50,000 from reserves into expense.
There you go.
There we go.
Need help.
Sorry.
Second.
All righty, so we have a committee, we have a motion to send this budget as presented with the $50,000 change, motion by Member Flaherty and seconded by Member Waddington. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, so we will send this to the City Council at their June 1st meeting. All righty. So I am now going to adjourn the City Budget Committee meeting and convene the URA Budget Committee hearing. And we are now going to hear a review of the URA proposed budget.
Okay, thank you. The Urban Renewal Agency budget, for any of the public that would happen to be reviewing this, that is a separate, the URA has its own federal tax ID. It is an entirely separate fund from the remainder of the city's funds. You can see that we did some noodling as we went along, got near the end of the year. The beginning fund balance is almost, it's $1,935,063.32. Interestingly enough, urban renewal prior year taxes were pretty good this year. So, it's interesting how those things change. So, didn't get all of the taxes projected, but we got a lot more of the prior taxes. So that was actually a kind of interesting year. Good interest on investments. So about, $2.6 million in revenues forthcoming, including, So, we've got some basic expenses. The bulk of all of the expenses are in urban renewal agency projects. And the way we do that is we budget, all the remainder funds, and that's about $2,366,504 is what we estimate. That's what we're proposing for 2027. $100,000 in contingency, which is kind of an it's normal to have contingency. We don't think we're going to spend all those funds this year, but we will definitely, there's a couple projects on the horizon, but we don't have those broken out because we really have no idea, what those are going to cost this year. We've got the First National Bank Park, Fifth Street. Yeah, Mark, did you know about that? And the, what do we call it now? The former theater lot project, or the hole in the ground. So we have those two URA projects that are, in development right now, and the council will hear more about those at the June meeting. So.
I have a question, Mark. Have you, would you benefit, or can you think of any projects that would benefit? Everyone's trying to do more with less. Staff, there's just more is being asked, but same amount of people. Is there any projects that could be funded with the URA that would reduce the maintenance effort with your staff?
Well, just any projects done downtown, in the URA district, if, just whatever attention can be paid to the infrastructure would be great. And I know that was the plan up here on Adams Street, like things like that. The one that I told y'all, no, we're not quite ready to do that yet, I helped talk you out of. That sort of project, is, I think that's the best that the, utilities can ask from URA. Is just, to be considered in those projects, and then, if you fund them if you can, or, even if you're not, it's a little less expensive for us to typically do, if we do some at the same time, that you're funding, say, a street project up there, it makes that work less expensive for us. So, yeah, really just, replacing the old infrastructure, which is, right, exactly what you guys are doing, but it's above ground.
Yeah. So in the 27 requested, we've got projects of 894, 795, but proposed 2.3. So basically depleting that fund. Why?
Well, to be honest with you, those are proposed projects. We don't, I could have taken that differential and just put it in contingency, but we don't know what our projects are going to cost.
Okay.
So we don't have to spend that.
So we want a budget to spend all of our money?
Essentially.
Okay.
Or, if you prefer, we can do a lot more and just put a lot more in contingency, but.
I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah.
If we didn't budget for it, like Paul was saying, we'd have to come back with a supplemental budget.
Right, so then you really have to modify your budget.
So I got
and then chances are it'll be more than, there's like a $25,000 threshold. If it's more than that, then you got to have budget hearings. So, I know you're enjoying this. We could do more budget hearings.
And then, just one other question, I think you probably already touched on it, but in 26 estimated, why is that a negative 447 on taxes received?
That's because the software is goofy. I hate this column. I wish I could actually cut it out, because for the most part, what that's essentially saying is that we have that negative, right? Well, we don't. We have collected, if we look at the budget sheets that I provide the council, yeah, we actually have more revenues. So, yeah.
So, or 26 estimated is not 667 in the hole then?
Oh, absolutely not.
I didn't think so.
No, that's just, that's a anomaly that's produced by our fabulous software called Springbrook. Yeah, they have lots of glitches, but anyway.
Any questions on the URA proposed budget? Anybody? All right. Let's recess the URA Budget Committee meeting and open a public hearing on the URA budget.
I believe that I presented the committee the URA budget in its total, and certainly the public is welcome to ask questions.
Oh, stop it, I still got 6 minutes. All righty, so I'm going to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the URA Budget Committee meeting. Now, do I have any committee action and recommendation to the city council on the URA budget?
I hacked the last one, somebody else did.
I move that, recommend that we send this proposed budget to the city council.
I got a motion to approve the URA budget by Member Frazier and seconded by Member Cooper. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Guess what? We are not going to be here past 9 o'clock this year.
Wow.
I'm going to adjourn this budget meeting at 7:55.
Yeah, you needed the gavel.
It's a land speed record.
Hey, thanks, committee members, and thank you,
Yes,
staff.
thank you, everybody. Thank you, staff. I could have talked for 5 more minutes.